All right, so this is my presentation for the first case study for SPCE 638. My name is Tucker Flottman, and I'm going to be talking about one of my clients today and one of the assessments that I used to target some future programming goals for him. So the client, we're going to be referring to him as Josh. That is not his real name, obviously. Josh is a 7-year-old boy who lives in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. He lives with his parents and his little brother. Both of his parents work full time. Um, Josh is non-vocal, but he uses an AAC device and he is very proficient with his device. He uses it better than a lot of adults I know can talk. Um, he is very particular about how he uses it, though. He typically will only use 2 to 3 word sentences if he uses sentences at all. He was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when he was 3 years old. So it's been about 4 years since that. And he has received ABA services for 2 years. He's actually at his second clinic right now. His first clinic unfortunately closed. And then he started receiving services pretty much right away at a new clinic. So some of the major concerns with Josh are his behaviors, his aggression, which typically takes the form of closed fist hitting towards his implementers. That one presents typically in response to task presentation. He will bite his own hand, typically as escape as well. And then he screams. The screaming is one of the hardest ones to pin down a function for. And we're going to go over later the assessment that was used for determining the functions for some of these behaviors. Another concern is that he is really not interested in socializing with his peers. He typically will respond to adults when questions are asked. As far as initiating interactions with adults, it's typically only manding using his AAC device. And typically he will only mand for items that he can see. So, for example, if he's hungry or thirsty and there's no food in the room, he won't mand for food. If he needs to go to the bathroom, he will typically only ask to go to the bathroom if he is already walking by the bathroom. He has had some toileting accidents because he has not taken the initiative to mand to use the bathroom himself. He's very prompt dependent when he acquires new skills. He typically will wait out being prompted when doing DTT programs. He just kind of expects that he will be helped with everything. And although he has the capability to do a lot, he generally is not interested in independently acquiring new skills if he thinks he can be helped with it. And he is also very routine based. His parents are currently pursuing an OCD diagnosis because the need for sameness has gotten to the degree that it is a barrier to most aspects of his life. So we've been seeing him for a couple of years, as I mentioned. So this is his level 3 VB map result. The different colors indicate the different times that he was reassessed because we reassess every 6 months. So the blue on this represents the most recent assessment that was done with him in December. So as you can see, he is maxing out on quite a lot of the targets for VBMAP, reading, writing, math. So academically, he's doing excellent. It's the intraverbals, the social skills that are tending to be the biggest problem. And even with his AAC device, he has a lot more capability than he's really been showing us with his communication. So the reason that we have decided to transition him from VBMAP to ABLES is that, as I mentioned, academically, he's really right on point where he needs to be. He is 7 years old. As I mentioned, he just turned 7. So he's getting to be the age where the VBMAP is no longer recommended for clients of that age, and ABLES is starting to be the recommended assessment for that age range. The ABLES also targets skills that his parents really want to develop more out of him, such as functional living skills. His parents are wanting to implement like a chore routine for him. because he is so routine based. If they are able to put him on a protocol like that, they think that it's going to really help him develop those adaptive living skills. And the deficits that we're seeing with the VB map from that last slide, a lot of those carry over to the ABLES as well. And so we can continue to target some of those same skill deficits while also targeting the skills that the ABLES can show us. So after conducting the ABLES, we saw that he scored very highly with labeling, manding, receptive language, imitation, leisure, writing, and motor skills. So again, the academic skills and the use of the AAC device for immediately present items are skills that we knew he pretty much had. But imitation and leisure and writing are ones that we're really impressed that he's developed so highly since he's begun receiving services. Motor skills never really have been a concern with him. Toileting, syntax, interverbals, and social interaction are big targets moving forward. Toileting, especially, as I mentioned, he has had several accidents over the past month just because he is not comfortable with independently manding for the bathroom. So developing that sense of independence, that ability to say, hey, this is what I need without having to be asked, that's a big target for him moving forward, as well as social interaction. So we're putting him on a toileting protocol that we're going to use across all environments. And we're going to have some new programs moving forward. Social peer play is the one I'm most excited about. We're basically going to assess how much time he spends independently playing with peers. We're going to use some NET opportunities to contrive some opportunities. We've got several other children who attend the clinic who are very interested in forming a relationship with Josh. And I think that putting them in his path and helping them to kind of create those relationships will be very big moving forward. And the results from the ABLES really help to show us that is a skill that he is ready for. And so I'm very excited that using those results, we can move forward with planning some treatment goals that are relevant for him and will really challenge him. Then after conducting the ABLES, we conducted a QABF assessment, which stands for questions about behavioral functions. So for this assessment, we analyze, we do 25 questions, and we actually did 3 of these. We did one for each of the behaviors listed here. And this assessment kind of analyzes what context a behavior occurs in, which really helps narrow down what the most likely perceived function is. So we assessed the screaming, the aggression, and the self-biting. The screaming, it was really helpful because, as I mentioned, this one was the hardest to pin down. Access tends to be the most predominant function of this behavior, but escape also is pretty common. Escape is actually pretty common for all of these. Aggression and self-biting were predominantly escape. Aggression really only pops up as a response to task placements, which was not surprising to me. But the self-biting was also really helpful. We kind of see a dual function, escape and access. Those both were pretty predominant. So using these assessments really was helpful for me developing kind of a plan moving forward as I start to push more and more into Josh's treatment plan and into I will be conducting his next reauthorization. So the ABLES assessment and the QABF that I ran are going to be a big part of that. I'm excited to use these results and further work with this child and help figure out what it is we're doing next to meet his needs. All right. Thank you for listening.